Hey James, this week was supposed to be about class, but not very many people really wanted to talk about it. Quite a lot of people were just like, oh, I don't really have very much to say because I come from a really privileged background and I don't really want to put out my voice. And I totally understand that. However, very few people raise any objections talking about race issues or disability issues or trans issues when they are, white, able-bodied, cis. With class, I don't know why it's different. I don't know why people feel like they can't come forward and talk about it that much in feminist spaces. Maybe it's like what Becca said, whereas they feel as though women aren't really safe or welcome in kind of class issue spaces. The whole anarchist thing and quite a lot of workers' liberty groups are really, really like masculine and crap. But all the more reason that we should talk about it within feminist spaces. I guess I was really upset that not many people wanted to talk about class or even engage with it or, read a Wikipedia article about it or just, I know that people had other things as well, but it's obviously something that's very close to my heart. Also, another reason why I was kind of upset that no one wanted to talk about it is because last week everyone was going on about RadFem 2012, the big cis-sexist horrible conference, which has now been cancelled. Yay! A lot of people were kicking up a stink about the trans exclusionary policy, which was obviously bullshit, and people definitely needed to talk about. However, 2 out of the 3 speakers are actively against sex workers. I mean, that's a really, really huge classist stance to take, and no one really picked up on that. No one really kind of stood up for the women who were fighting that corner and saying, hey, this isn't okay either. And so really I would have liked to see a bit more class solidarity about that as well. Sex work is really divisive in the feminist movements, and it is very much a class divide in quite a lot of the class spaces. So kind of union groups and things like that. A lot of people picked up on the sex work thing. So yeah, I was kind of disappointed. I guess I wanted to outline only some of the ways in which class intersects with feminism. For instance, the most common one, a Marxist feminist kind of idea of the double bind, can also go up to the triple bind and quadruple bind, depending on how oppressed you are. But basically this is the idea that if you're working class and you're a woman, you're doubly fucked as men, having no money and having no freedom and having no sort of agency. Having limits on your agency within society is obviously going to have a very, very big impact on the choices that you can make. And so we should be really thinking about ways to empower women that don't involve, taking time off of work to go on a weekend conference, which doesn't mean paying money to go on a conference, which doesn't mean travelling to London to go to a conference, which doesn't mean having to pay for childcare so you can go to a weekly meetup, which doesn't mean perhaps risking women suffering from cuts. We know that women are suffering the worst from cuts over the gender divide. Things like childcare being cut, things like rape crisis centres being cut, things like postnatal health being cut. So obviously if you rely on these services, you're fucked. Less financial stability affects your agency. That affects the choices that you can make. It's much harder to leave a partner if they are abusive. It's much harder to gain access to contraception. So many things. I think the fact that less feminists want to talk about class just blows my mind when it overlaps so much. My wonderful friend Kat, who is Jen's older sister, got me this book. So if you are looking to read a book about women growing up working class, this book so far is really great. It's called Without a Net: The Female Experience of Growing Up Working Class. It's America-centric, and it talks quite a lot about immigration. It talks a lot about all kinds of things, healthcare, stealing, kind of parental pressure, going to university, that sort of thing. It's a really, really good book. So if you fancy reading up on some kind of experiences and first accounts, I think there's so much intersection with class and feminism, and also race and class. You cannot remove those two when you talk about immigration and poverty and things like that. It seems really ridiculous that quite a lot of white middle class feminists can just kind of shrug off class and say, oh, but you know, they won't accept us in their movement, so what? We don't talk about it. Like, I could say so much more. If you want to talk to me about it, like, please PM me, Twitter me, write in the comments, because this could open out in so many ways. It's just like this massive section of society which is like almost completely untapped or seen as like a specialist subject in feminism, and that breaks my little heart. It really does. Fab. I don't feel like I've said a lot, but I've said a lot. You know what I mean. Take care. Bye bye.